Have you ever noticed that the moment you start watching yourself, everything changes? The way you breathe, the way you think, even the way the energy feels inside your body. That's called the observer effect. And it's not just a quantum physics thing, it's a consciousness thing. Because the instant you become the observer, you shift realities. The observer effect in consciousness. In quantum mechanics, they discovered something profound. Particles behave differently when they're being observed. When no one is watching, energy exists as infinite possibilities, waves of potential. But the exact moment that an observer appears, that wave collapses into one specific reality. That means your awareness is the creative force. You are the observer, collapsing energy into form. And guys, that's not just happening in a lab. It's happening in your life. Every time you become aware of a thought, a pattern, a trigger, a limiting belief, you're no longer lost in it. You're observing it. You're aware of it. And that act alone changes everything. When the ego moves to the back seat, when your awareness expands, something subtle happens. You start hearing two voices inside you. One voice is your ego, the personality, the identity, the one trying to figure everything out, the one that thinks it's got to be in control. And then there's the other voice that is calm, infinite, loving. That's your higher self. It's the voice that doesn't react. It simply knows. And the moment you start listening instead of thinking, you realize you're not the ego. You are the one watching the ego. The consciousness behind the ego. The consciousness behind the character, the identity, who you thought you were, right? I still remember when I realized this early on in my awakening journey during a meditation. I realized, oh wait, there's my thoughts, and then there's me observing my thoughts. And when I realized that, it really blew my mind, right? I realized that I'm so much more than what I thought. And the more I observe Vanessa, the easier it gets to observe Vanessa. And the easier it is to keep her ass in line, right? My QHHT experience. In my recent quantum healing hypnosis session with Suzanne Spooner, I experienced this in the most vivid way. It felt like I was there, because I was there, but not in the driver's seat and not as a main participant. It felt like when my higher self was being channeled through me, it felt like I was in another room just listening to a conversation that was happening between my higher self and Suzanne, right? And there were times during it that my ego tried to listen more, and it tried to be nosy a little bit more and really listen to what was being said, depending on the conversation, what the questions were being asked and all that. Most of the time it just felt like I was sitting in another room listening to two people have a conversation. And there were times that I could just hear them talking, but then there's other times that something would kind of pique my curiosity, and I'd have to kind of watch my ego, my conscious mind, so that I wouldn't get too involved. I needed to keep my ego conscious mind in the back seat of the vehicle, right? So that my higher self could be in the driver's seat, having full control, answering all the questions, right? Having this conversation with Suzanne. And that's what happens during a quantum healing hypnosis session. We make contact, You're in deep, deep hypnosis, and we can make contact with your higher self, the higher consciousness part of you that has all the answers to everything. It's all knowing, right? And that's what it felt like. It felt like Vanessa was sitting in the back seat listening to two people have a conversation in the other room. That's exactly what it felt like. So my ego wasn't driving. It had just gently moved back to the back seat, just listening. And from that space, I could feel pure awareness watching. It wasn't judging. It wasn't analyzing. It was just witnessing. And this is what it feels like to have your ego conscious mind in the back seat and your higher self completely forward in the driver's seat, right? When the ego stops trying to control everything, just let it listen and not be a part of the conversation. And when that happens, the higher self can step forward. And when the higher self can step forward and drive the vessel, drive the vehicle, that's when reality starts rearranging, reorganizing around that higher awareness, right? And that's exactly what my higher self meant when it said, if you want to live a dream life, Vanessa, if you want to live a dream life full of abundance, full of love, full of peace, full of everything that you've ever wanted, and I'm not just talking about material things, not that at all, but the dream life. If you want that, let me drive. That's what it meant. Let me come forward. Let your ego conscious mind step back and sit in the back seat for once. That's what they meant. The shift in reality. Once you start watching your own thoughts instead of believing them and buying into them, you begin to notice reality responds instantly. Instantly. You're able to calm your energy and situations just resolve themselves. Everything just kind of falls into place and works themselves out. When you let go, like you don't feel like you've got to always control everything, because you don't have to always control everything. And when you're able to do that, let go of that need to control everything and figure it all out, that's when the magic really happens. My life has changed so much since my session. I've really been able to let go of the need to figure it all out and control everything, and just let my higher self come forward more and drive my vessel, let the divine flow through me more. If we all could get to that place, how different would our individual realities be? And how different would our collective experience be? If we all let our egos sit in the back seat, just let our egos sit in the back seat and let our higher selves come forward and drive, how different would your life be? How different would your neighbor's life be? Your friends and family's lives be? How different would planet Earth look if we all did that? And maybe that's where we're all headed. Maybe that's where this awakening journey is taking us. To that place. To that place. When we can create heaven on earth. When you shift your focus and people just start showing up differently. Everything starts shifting in your reality. People show up differently. You stop reacting, and timelines literally rearrange. All the puzzle pieces start coming together exactly, fitting perfectly how they were always meant to fit, right? Because consciousness doesn't just observe the world. It creates it. It creates it. Since my QHHT session, I know what it feels like to hear and have my higher self be channeled through me, right? And every time I listen to my recording, I still feel a shift within me every time I listen to part of it, all right? So this is an ongoing process. It doesn't just end after your session. Every time you listen to your recording, hearing the frequency of your higher self's energy going through you, it creates a shift within you energetically. Suzanne said it perfectly during my session. During the interview process, she said every time we listen to our recording, that hearing the frequency of our higher self, it shifts our DNA and our energy within us every time we hear the frequency of our higher self's voice. And yeah, it's using your voice, your vocal cords and everything. But the energy, I'm here to tell you, the energy of your higher self speaking through you is different than just your ego talking. It's completely different. It feels different. It feels so confident, matter of fact. And yeah, like they all kind of have a different vibe to them. My higher self has humor. And I'm kind of a humorous person, and so that kind of still came through for my higher self. It had humor, but it's so confident and just knows the answer. And Vanessa, in normal everyday life, isn't like that. You know, I've gotten better. I've gotten a lot better in being speaking my truth and being my sovereign being that I am. I've gotten a lot better at being more confident, but not like my higher self. That's on a completely different level. And I am a level 2 QHHT practitioner in Arkansas. So if you'd like to experience this for yourself, leave a comment below and we can connect. And I'll also leave a link to my website so you can find me on there. And yeah, I would love to connect if you're interested in having a session. The art of being the witness. So next time you feel triggered, anxious, or lost in thought, don't fight it. Just observe it. Watch yourself the way your higher self does, with love, neutrality, and deep, deep presence. Because that's where the magic happens. That's where reality bends. That's where the illusion of separation dissolves. And you return to your true nature. Closing message. So, if you have ever felt like there are two of you living life and one quietly observing, watching it unfold, you're not crazy. You're not crazy at all. You're awakening. You're realizing that there's two voices inside. And you're remembering who you really are. You are the awareness behind it all. You are the observer. You are the creator. You are the bridge between worlds. Because the moment you start watching yourself, everything begins to change. Everything. If this message resonated, please share it with family, friends, coworkers. Let's help more people remember the truth of who they really are. They're all pure consciousness, observing itself into form. And if you're walking this path of awakening, which you probably are if you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel, because this is where science, spirituality, and soul come together. And if you haven't seen my previous video where I explain how the observer effect actually works within consciousness, watch that next. I'll give you the deeper quantum context for what I experienced in my QHHT session. So I'll link that below as well. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one. Much love and thanks.